Welcome back, everyone. So, in the last video, we left off that we wanted to talk about the Canadian Bill of Rights and why I personally invoke the Canadian Bill of Rights because it is a better document when it comes to our human rights and fundamental freedoms. And we also talked about how this bill has royal assent, whereas the Charter does not. This Charter was signed in 1981, the Bill of Rights in 1960. There may be those, though, for whatever reason, that may say, you still have to use the Charter. I don't panic. Why? Because I have Section 26 of the Charter. It's right here, Section 26. I'm going to take you to the large form, and this is what it says. Section 26 of the Charter, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to use the Canadian Bill of Rights through the Charter, just in case someone insists that I use the Charter. Section 26, existing rights and freedoms in Canada continue. Let me repeat that. Existing rights and freedoms in Canada continue. And since I pointed out that Canadian Bill of Rights is 1960 with royal assent, and the Charter is 1981, clearly, Section 26 is talking about, for example, not limited to, but one of the documents it speaks to is the Canadian Bill of Rights. My existing rights and freedoms continue, which would be the Canadian Bill of Rights. Now, in case you're wondering, well, does it specify that? The answer, yes, it does. Let's go to the bottom first. I don't usually start there, but we're going to go to Section 3 of Section 26 and take a look at what it says. Section 26 also notably has been cited for the continued force and effect of rights recognized under the Canadian Bill of Rights. I'm going to repeat that. Section 26 also notably has been cited for the continued force. See, it did not override the Canadian Bill of Rights. So now we have two reasons. The Bill of Rights has royal assent and the Charter does not. And then the Charter itself tells you that it's been cited for the continued force and effect of rights recognized under the Canadian Bill of Rights. That means, you want me to use the Charter? Okay, Section 26. Thank you, Canadian Bill of Rights. And so since the Canadian Bill of Rights has no loopholes to my declared rights, that's the one I'm going to use when it comes to the declaration of my rights and my freedoms. Not the Charter that says my rights have reasonable limits, which I find especially odd, and I'll tell you why. Let's continue in Section 26 of the Charter, and I'm going to again show you. This is the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 26. It specifically says the guarantee in this Charter of certain rights and freedoms shall not be construed as denying the existence of any other rights or freedoms that exist in Canada. In other words, all the rights that already exist in Canada continue to exist. The Charter guarantees that. It doesn't override anything. In fact, it goes out of its way to say what its purpose is. See, right here, it says purpose. I'm going to take you right here, starting at the word it. It referred also to the section, Section 26, as underscoring that the Charter was intended to enlarge rights and freedoms, not to restrict or eliminate them. Let me repeat that. The Charter was intended to enlarge rights and freedoms, not to restrict or eliminate them. I have to tell you, I find that a little odd for a couple reasons. Number one, I have never felt more restricted than in the last 18 months. And you seem to be using the very Charter that you claim is supposed to enlarge my rights and freedoms to do it. Because you go to Section 1 and say that I have reasonable limits. Well, wait a minute. The Canadian Bill of Rights didn't say that. Why do I point this out? Well, anytime I see double talk, there's reasonable limits, but it's meant to do the opposite. That's when I know. Double talk, that means there's a problem. So if you want another reason to not use the Charter other than to say Section 26 tells me my Canadian Bill of Rights is where I should go, well, there's another reason for you. So let's go through this together. It is hereby recognized and declared that in Canada there have existed and shall continue to exist, without discrimination, without discrimination by reason of race, national origin, color, religion, or sex, the following human rights and fundamental freedoms, namely, not limited to. And I specify that, guys, because, for example, how about if somebody wants to fire you because you have a tattoo? Well, you can't do that. It doesn't talk about tattoos in here, but again, it's not limited to. You can't have discrimination. And remember when you're reading this, it's without discrimination, 1A. Without discrimination, 1B. Without discrimination, 1C. All the way through. That's how this reads out. So keep that in mind. So A, without discrimination, for the right of the individual to life. That is a huge word. It's not just that you exist, to your life. So, for example, when they try to insist that you wear a muzzle, hey, it's my life. There is no public nudity law breaking for me to expose my nose and my mouth. So that's a huge word, okay? Don't limit it. It's huge. You can apply all kinds of things to that. Liberty. You don't get to tell me I can't go to the park today. I pay the taxes for the park, and then you tell me I can't use it? Well, according to my Canadian Bill of Rights, you're in the wrong legally. You know, this document that has royal assent as opposed to what you're trying to peddle off. Security of the person. Yeah, see, you don't get to decide what ouchie fauchies go into my person without my consent. Period. And enjoyment of property. Shade, you're not allowed to have Thanksgiving dinner with your folks and with your cousins. Yeah, you don't get to have 7 people over your house. Really? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you because I have the Canadian Bill of Rights that says you have lost your mind. Well, we're going to give you a ticket. Well, you go right on ahead, and I will indeed see you in court. In the meantime, since there's a due process of law and I'm innocent until proven guilty, I will continue to enjoy my life, my liberty, my security of person, and the enjoyment of my property until we bring this to court, and then we'll let a judge decide if it was wrong for me to have turkey dinner with my family. Okay? Apparently, Shade is feeling extra sassy today. That's the position I have. It's up to you if you want to have that one or not. Let's continue. Without discrimination, the right of the individual to equality. See, you don't get to say, hey, what's your stabby jabby status? Because it's private. And I could easily use that to say, how can you treat me differently than someone else based on whether or not they've gotten, I don't know, the shingles shot, for example. That's contagious. Does everybody have to have that? I don't have to tell you whether I have that or not. Let's continue. So the right of the individual to equality before the law and the protection of the law. And remember, guys, this is namely, so it's not limited to. So you can apply this equality to anything that you believe is being inequitable to you. Oh, this is one of my favorites as a Jesus Christ loving and believing and worshiping Christian. You don't get to tell me how to worship my God. So is there a particular reason why this atheistic state is telling me how to worship God? You don't even believe a God exists, and then you could think you could tell me how to worship? No, I don't think so. So you don't get to tell me how to worship God, okay? I decide that, which might include, for example, if someone is agnostic or an atheist, guess what? You have freedom of religion too. You have the freedom to not bother with it, see? Then you can have your own religion or make up your own little religion, that you have a religion of staying at home and sipping margaritas by the pool once a week. Well, then that's up to you, okay? Freedom of religion, period. Apparently, the sassiness continues. Freedom of speech. Oh yes, I just told those people to stuff it in their hat when they try to tell me not to worship God in my own way, see? Now they have the freedom to say, well, we don't like that you're worshiping God in your own way. And I have the right to say, well, that's unfortunate. Now go stuff it in your hat. Because see, the Canadian Bill of Rights says that I'm free to do that. I'm also in a position to have freedom of assembly and association. Did you just say that my children can't go to the ice rink unless I have them in a certain ouchie fauchi status? Did you just say that? Oh my, I'm going to have to point you to this document called the Canadian Bill of Rights, which was assented to in 1960. You don't get to restrict that freedom of assembly. And if you do, you are indeed breaking the law, period. Freedom of the press. I hope this helps someone out there, and I hope that you found this edifying in some way. And in the meantime, guys, grace and peace. And Jesus said, "Behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves."